When they tried to silence a king name to keep his voice down, it still echoes through. They literally took the jewels out of the crowns, put them in their own crowns, but yet and still, we still rise as kings and queens.
It was meant to be just another dazzling night in Hollywood. Underscore, the lights, the gowns, the perfectly curated smiles on the red carpet. Cameras flashed, champagne flowed, and the room held its breath as Tyler Perry, the man who once offered Meghan Markle shelter, support, and silence when the world turned its back on her, stepped onto the stage to accept a prestigious humanitarian award. He smiled. He thanked the usual names. And then came the twist. In front of a star-studded audience, Perry did the unthinkable. He turned to the camera and praised Prince William and Princess Catherine, not just for their grace, but for what he called their unshakable dignity and true royal spirit. The applause was hesitant, a few confused glances, and just like that, a subtle yet unmistakable dig at Meghan Markle echoed through the room. Why would Tyler Perry, of all people, send a message like this? Why now? Underscore, something had clearly changed, and the world couldn't look away. T.O. understand the weight of Tyler Perry's words that night. We have to go back to the beginning. Underscore, back to 2020, the year the world changed. And so did the royal family. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle had just shaken the very foundations of the monarchy with a single announcement. Underscore, they were leaving, not just stepping down from royal duties, but leaving the institution entirely. It was a move that stunned the world. Megxit. The headlines called it, and while some celebrated their courage, others were far less kind. The couple, now stripped of their royal protections, found themselves isolated, vulnerable, and hunted by the press. Enter Tyler Perry. Quietly, without fanfare, the media mogul did something extraordinary. He offered Harry and Meghan his private Los Angeles mansion. More than that, he provided them with security when no one else would. Not the palace. Not even the British government. To Meghan, Tyler wasn't just a friend. He was a lifeline. In her own words, during the now infamous Oprah interview, she said, "He offered us safety when we needed it most." For many, it felt like a powerful alliance, a statement, one of Hollywood's most influential figures, standing by the Sussexes in their darkest hour. But fast forward to 2025, and something is different. Perry's recent remarks weren't a slip of the tongue. They were measured, public, intentional. The same man who once stood as a quiet protector now appears to be stepping back, or worse, choosing a side. And it's not Meghan and Harry's. What happened between then and now? Underscore what could turn a loyal ally into something else entirely? The answer, as always, lies behind the smiles and the shadows, and in the stories we weren't told. In the early months of 2020, Harry and Meghan weren't just navigating royal exit paperwork. They were escaping a storm. Underscore, their security detail had been pulled. The press was relentless, and relationships with the palace had grown icy cold. They were, quite literally, homeless. And that's when Tyler Perry stepped in, not with grand statements or press releases, but with quiet compassion. He opened the gates of his $18 million Beverly Hills estate, offering not just a roof, but protection, armed security, peace, privacy. It was, in Meghan's words, the first time they could finally breathe. Over the next year, Perry became more than just a benefactor. He was a counselor, a comforter, a friend. And in 2021, the Sussexes honored that bond in the most intimate way possible. They asked Perry to be the godfather to their daughter, Lilibet Diana, a role that symbolized trust, family, permanence. But behind the scenes, something was shifting. At first, it was subtle, a distancing. Phone calls less frequent. Public mentions of Perry quieting. And then came the whispers. Sources close to Perry began hinting at something unspoken, a deep emotional fatigue. One insider claimed Perry felt drained and used as a shield during the Sussexes' escape. Another described him as a generous man, but not one to be caught in endless drama. And the drama? It kept escalating. From Netflix deals to tell-all memoirs, legal threats, family rifts, and media wars, Harry and Meghan were building a new life, but controversy never stopped circling. Meanwhile, Perry was facing storms of his own. His sprawling media empire had hit turbulence. Lawsuits, staff walkouts, whispers of creative burnout. The man who had always seemed invincible was now stretched thin. And there, in the middle of it all, sat this once unbreakable friendship, now fraying at the edges. Not with a bang, but with slow, careful silence. Underscoring sometimes silence speaks volumes. For a while, no one noticed the distance. Tyler Perry was never one to overshare, and neither were Harry and Meghan when it came to him. But in the months following Lilibet's christening, something changed. The warm mentions and interviews disappeared. The birthday tributes? Gone. And more noticeably, Perry stopped showing up. Red carpet events, charity galas, high-profile Hollywood functions hosted or attended by the Sussexes. Perry, once a quiet fixture behind the scenes, was nowhere to be found. Hollywood insiders began to whisper, he's stepping back. He's tired of the drama. He gave a lot and got dragged into too much. One source even claimed Perry had started referring to himself in private as the unpaid therapist. A confidant, a safe space, until it became emotionally exhausting. And with Harry and Meghan locked in one controversy after another, lawsuits, headlines, accusations, the toll wasn't just personal, it was reputational. Perry's name was being brought up in tabloids and royal podcasts, not as a mogul, not as a filmmaker, but as Meghan Markle's protector, a role he never asked for, and, it seems, no longer wanted. And then came the announcement. Tyler Perry would be receiving a Lifetime Humanitarian Award at the 2025 BET Awards, one of the most respected honors in black entertainment. The buzz was immediate, not about the award, but about the moment. Would Perry finally address the rumors? Would he speak on the Sussexes? Or stay silent, as he always had? Social media lit up with speculation. TikTokers dissected his past interviews. YouTubers analyzed every public appearance. One viral tweet summed it up best. Perry's about to say something. He's too smart not to. And as the date approached, the tension only grew. BET organizers promised an honest and powerful speech. Close friends hinted that Perry was ready to speak his truth, even if it wasn't what everyone expected. The stage was being set, not just for a tribute, but for a reckoning. Because when a man like Tyler Perry, beloved, respected, unshakably private, chooses to speak, people listen. Underscore, especially when the silence has lasted this long. The room was already buzzing when Tyler Perry took the stage that night. The 2025 BET Awards, a celebration of black excellence, talent, and legacy. And yet, the air was heavy. Everyone knew this moment, his moment, might carry more than just a thank you list. Perry walked slowly to the mic, his usual calm presence commanding the room. A sea of stars leaned in. He began with grace, a soft smile, a tribute to his mother, a nod to the dreamers. Every story I've ever told came from pain, he said, and the healing that follows. The audience nodded, some already misty-eyed. Then he shifted. His voice dropped a register, slower, more deliberate, and his eyes, they scanned the crowd, almost searching. You know, in this industry, loyalty is rare, and grace, even rarer. We live in a time when people trade truth for attention and kindness for control. The room went still. He didn't name names. He didn't have to. There are some who've been through fire, who never lost their dignity, who never threw anyone under the bus just to stay relevant. I look at Prince William and Princess Catherine, and I see that. I see royalty, not because of the title, but because of how they move, with patience, with silence, with strength. A murmur rippled through the audience. Cameras zoomed in. Some jaws dropped. A few hands covered mouths. Did he just say that? Perry didn't stop. It's easy to play the victim when cameras are rolling. It's harder to carry your wounds quietly, to protect your family without needing to destroy someone else's. The subtext was razor sharp. The implications, devastating. And then the line, the one that would trend for days. There are kings by blood, and then there are kings by character. I know which one I follow. Underscore gasps. Audible. Someone backstage dropped their headset. A producer whispered, "Did he clear that line?" Social media. Instant meltdown. Hashtag Tyler Perry. Hashtag real royalty. Hashtag he said it. Hashtag the Godfather turns. Even the camera operators looked uncertain where to aim. Perry, unfazed, continued, I've made mistakes. I've trusted too easily. And I've learned sometimes when you offer shelter, people bring storms with them. But I'll never stop believing in second chances, just not infinite ones. There was not just disappointment, but something deeper, betrayal. And for those who'd watched him offer his home, his security, his heart to Harry and Meghan just years earlier, the shift was unmistakable. He ended with quiet grace. To those who stood strong, silent, and still, this is for you. You don't need to shout to be heard. Sometimes, the world finally sees who you are when you say nothing at all. A standing ovation, but not the roaring kind. It was slower, softer, thoughtful. Even the applause felt like it carried weight. This wasn't just an acceptance speech. It was a reckoning. And as Perry stepped off that stage, the internet lit up, the headlines ignited, and something shifted. Underscore the World had just witnessed a line being drawn. And Tyler Perry had chosen a moment to credit his role on the BET Awards broadcast. The world jolted awake. Headlines screamed, Perry ditches Sussexes? Followed by ungrateful and entitled. The tone of the response was razor-sharp. The FloridaScene.net. In format news. Royal supporters didn't wait to weigh in. Some whispered of betrayal. Others of unfortunate necessity. But armored against all this, there was no official statement from Meghan. Not a tweet. Not an Instagram post. Nothing. Silence. Meanwhile, the press sought desperately to fill the void. I was a lifeline, not a lifelong bank. Proclaimed one explosive headline. In format news. Ungrateful and entitled, screamed another, referencing the veiled barb at the Sussexes. The FloridaScene.net. The smart money bets? Perry's speech was no emotional slip. It was a tactical nuke, as one Hollywood insider put it, aimed squarely at the Sussex brand. In format news. On social media, lines were drawn. Royal sympathizers posted photos of William and Catherine, praising Grace under fire. Sussex loyalists accused Perry of heartbreak and betrayal. Insiders whispered about Meghan's devastation and fury. One source said she felt blindsided, hurt that someone she trusted had turned the spotlight onto her debts, not her dignity. In format news, Hollywood, always hungry for drama, heard the echoes. Netflix projects flagged. Producers quietly distanced themselves. Some say funding for the as-ever lifestyle brand began to evaporate overnight. In format news, at the same time, Perry's star burned even brighter. Fans praised his classy, coded truth. He was being hailed once more as a man of principles. A few friends whispered, he's done with drama. The industry's euphemism for walking away from a toxic narrative. And then an eyebrow-raising sighting. Perry appeared at a royal-related charity gala, not long after. Buzz swirled. Did this mean a realignment? A return? Or was it a final curtain call? No one knows. But one thing's certain. A bond that once felt unbreakable now feels irrevocably cracked. And as for Meghan and Harry, still silent. Underscore and sometimes, not speaking, says everything. So what was that speech, really? Underscore, a personal reckoning? A calculated shift? Or simply a truth too heavy to stay buried? When Tyler Perry stood beneath those lights and chose his words, deliberately, carefully, he wasn't just speaking to a crowd of celebrities. He was speaking to us. To every viewer who's ever watched the drama of royalty and fame unfold like a modern Shakespearean play. To everyone who's ever wondered, how much of this is real and how much is performance? Because what Perry did was draw a line. And maybe, just maybe, he wasn't alone. Maybe his words echoed the quiet frustration of others who had supported Meghan and Harry in private, but watched their public battles spiral into something darker and more divisive. Maybe Perry was the voice of supporters who no longer felt heard. And now, the fallout isn't just emotional, it's strategic. Meghan may have lost more than a friend. She may have lost a gatekeeper, someone with the power to shield, to guide, to elevate. And as that door closes, another opens. William and Catherine, the so-called real king and queen in Perry's words, find their star rising once more, not through speeches or streaming deals, but through quiet endurance. And isn't that ironic? In a world obsessed with clicks, sound bites, and perfectly curated brand images, the figures who speak least seem to gain the most, which raises a question. What is loyalty in an age of public platforms and private pain? What happens when your supporters stop clapping? Not because they don't care, but because they've been burned. And perhaps the most important question of all, underscore whose crown shines brighter when the lights go out.